Greetings, everyone. My name is Cassandra Floyd. I am also known as the DaughterOfTheFates, and I'm the founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. I am returning today for the continued reading of the book that we started last week. We started reading last week the awesome, controversial, magnanimous works of Mary Daly, known as Pure Lust. Pure Lust. So this is what we're going to be reading today. We left off. Okay. So we left off on page 42. For those of you who have the book, on page 42. For those of you that are just listening, we're on page 42, which is chapter 1, foreground to the first round. Okay, so I'm just going to read like I promised that I would do every day. So I want, housekeeping. So like I told you on Saturday when we did the temple service, there's some changes that I'm going to be making as of today to how I show up on social media. So I will be doing the same thing that I've been doing in terms of this new reading and any of the other books that I've read. So if you're tuning in from IG, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is go into YouTube and in the search engine put @DaughterOfTheFates as one word, @DaughterOfTheFates. And you can go into my, I have a folder called audiobooks. Those are books that I have read on my channel. So you can look at the books from the past that I've read. This will go there. And so during the day, greetings, Lotus Flower. So this is what I will do. Every day at 5 o'clock for 1 hour, Monday through Friday, I will read from the book. Then I will do an additional live later in the evening. That will be other things because I told you I wanted to theme the days. So what I have decided is that one Monday a month, I haven't decided which one yet, probably the third Monday of every month. Let me write that down. The third Monday of every month will be a movie review day. I have been getting a lot of requests for my movie review skills, my movie breakdown skills. I've been having a lot of requests for new movie reviews. So on Monday, one Monday a month, the third Monday of the month will be dedicated to a movie review. The other Mondays will be dedicated to astrology. And that is astrology from my worldview, from my perspective. Okay? Then Tuesdays, I will do tarot readings. I will do live tarot readings like I did this past Saturday. I will do for 1 hour. I will do live tarot readings every Tuesday. Wednesdays will be our oracle study. So you know how when you're in church, you got to go do Bible study on Wednesday? We're not going to do Bible study. We're going to do oracle study on Wednesday. That will be facilitated through Zoom. That way it's interactive. You can ask me questions, whatever. Greetings, Letitia. So Wednesdays I'll be calling it our oracle studies. We'll be facilitating that through Zoom. And that way it's interactive. You can ask me questions. I'll ask for feedback, whatever. And then we'll highlight from week to week what we'll be studying during the oracle study on Wednesday. On Thursdays, it will be dedicated for 1 hour to health. Haven't come up with a cute little name yet For the health, probably just my business name, Release Heart Center. But Thursdays I will devote to the question of health. Um, yeah, I will devote that to the question of health. What I may do is, um, just for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, like teach, and then for the last 30 minutes, allow you all to ask questions around the topic of health. That will be on Thursdays. On Fridays, I have entitled it Art is the Answer. And so we're going to focus in some way about art, whether it's popular culture, it's very broad. Music, popular culture, dance, whatever. This might be the opportunity. As a matter of fact, Letitia, we need to talk. I keep promising this, but we need to talk because you might be my first interview for Art is the Answer coming up this Friday, right? So it's going to be the first time I'm doing Art is the Answer on this coming Friday for this new kind of routine or schedule that I'm trying to kind of more organize around. And then the last announcement that I have to make about that is up until this point, the temple is almost a year old. We were founded in November. So the temple is almost a year old. And since the temple started, we have been doing our temple services on Saturday. Okay? And I like doing temple service on Saturday. However, and it might just be because of my opposition to church Sunday. You feel me? However, I had a conversation with a sister and her husband this past weekend who have a really extraordinary building, and they want to allow me to use the building. The only problem is I cannot use the building on Saturday because that's their big event day every Saturday. So she's like, if you want it on Sunday, you can have it on Sunday. So the other announcement, I don't know if it's going to be this Sunday yet. I'm trying to get it for this Sunday. I just talked to her Saturday, but we will be shifting our temple services from Saturday morning to Sunday morning. Hopefully starting this Sunday, I'll be able to say more about that as the week goes on. So the Sunday will be the services of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. Those services, and I love the idea of having a location, which is how we started in the first place. The very first temple services, we had a location. We had an art gallery in the Crenshaw district, but life intervened. My mother became unwell, and so now we might have the potential for another location. That way, people who are in the area can actually come and participate. And unlike me having been facilitating temple services here in the house, when I was doing temple services on location, I actually had, like an actual service. I set up an altar. We did meditation, or we would do sound bath or something to we would have what do you call it? I forget the word. But the time where you get together and greet everybody and socialize before the service starts. You know what I'm saying? The sister that offered me the building was like, if you want to keep it a little longer, you could even host a brunch after the service is over. I was like, what? She was like, yeah. So, so it will be nice to actually have a location, to actually be able to, fellowship with people in person and have it more interactive, and it will still be live. The live will still broadcast just like I did early on from both Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, and IG, Facebook, YouTube, all the things. So hopefully, like I said, throughout the week, I'll let you know if we'll be starting this Sunday or if it will be the following Sunday. But she said we could have the space. So that's exciting. That's great news. And yeah, so that's it, I think, for the housekeeping. So we have a rudimentary schedule. That way you can tune in for the things that most resonate with you, or you can tune in to all the things. But Just so you know, we're reiterating every third Monday will be a movie review thing. And all the Mondays outside of that third Monday will be based on astrology, but it'll be based on like functional astrology. What's happening in the world, what's happening within the context of this Pluto returns that we're currently in, how to prepare for these next big movements that are happening because they coming up back to back to back to back to back. We got 2 eclipses in the month of October that are big ass, radical ass eclipses. We need to know about that. We need to know what it's going to mean for our life. But we need to know how it's going to affect us in every aspect of our life and how to prep for that, right? So astrology will be every Monday outside of the third Monday. Every Tuesday, I will be doing live tarot readings just like I did this past Saturday night. Live tarot readings on Tuesday. Wednesday will be our Oracle study. And Thursday will be Release Heart Center Health, whatever. I got to come up with something cute to call that. And Friday will be Art is the Answer. Art is the Answer. Sundays will be the Sunday service. So that's the recap for that. That's the housekeeping for today. So now, as promised, I'm going to go feet first because I don't want this book to take forever. It's not a very long book, just very wordy in small print. You understand? So it might take us a little time. I'm hoping 2 weeks. It might be a little longer than that. 3 weeks at the most. Can't be more than 3 weeks. But every day at 5, I will do the reading until we're done with this book. And then later in the evening, I will do another live that is based on the themes for each night. So tonight is going to be a discussion around astrology, the coming astrological events, and how to prepare for those. Okay? All right. So for those that are just joining in, again, we are reading Pure Lust by Mary Daly. The subtitle is Elemental Feminist Philosophy. And I encourage you to get this book. Get this book. Get this book. That's the last I'm going to say about that. Lawrence was caught in a vicious cycle. So let me just say where we're starting for context. For those of you, this is the first time you're tuning into the read of this book. The last place that we left off when she was talking about the history of ascetics. So an ascetic is a person who practices asceticism or asceticism. Some people are bougie about how they pronounce it, whatever. Asceticism, which are extreme acts of devotion, typically tied to like religious institutions. You know, some people may consider, like fasting and prayer ascetic, but these are more like deeper acts of devotion, vows of celibacy or abstinence, vows of poverty, even doing stuff like she mentioned, even like the Hindu ascetics who, do extraordinary things like walking on nails or walking on. These are all acts, quote, extreme acts of devotion, religious devotion. And so we left off talking about this monk or this priest who was considered one of the more extreme. And she's also talking about this particular monk, how his quote acts of devotion or his acts of asceticism were actually fueled by previously experienced sexual trauma, and in the psychological trauma, his acts of asceticism were actually attempting to repeat his trauma through some kind of twisted sense of guilt. So this is what we're talking about now, where I'm starting off, so you're not lost. Lawrence was caught in a vicious cycle. The only punishment sufficiently severe to allay the guilt, according to Mac's interpretation, included the repetition of the experience itself, the pain of the beatings. However, this in turn required a repetition of the sexual aspect of the experience, thereby deepening the guilt. As in the case of Gandhi, Lawrence was continually testing himself, attempting to purify himself. As with Gandhi, his tests were self-imposed and highly ritualistic, and he identified with patriarchally constructed feminine roles. In Gandhi's case, the role was motherlessness. Let's see. Excuse me. In Gandhi's case, the role was motherliness. For Lawrence, the role was that of rape victim who feels trapped in a sense of defilement and false guilt. Gandhi's circle was less self-destructive. He he psychologically raped women, many of whom addressed him as mother. This is talking about y'all valued Gandhi. At the same time, he conned them into behaving towards him in a maternal way. He got the best of both deals, receiving not only the respect due to a male mother, but also the mothering, i.e. the spiritual nurturance, the energy injections, which he recognized women alone as capable of bestowing. Oh, oh, oh. Millions adored this imposter mother. Many adored this imposter mother. They're talking about Gandhi, just so you know, just so you ain't lost. She is talking about Gandhi, baby. She said millions adored this imposter mother, an image which has survived even the scandal of Brahmacharya experiments. Lawrence fared differently. He also was legendary in his fame. He was also legendary, and his fame was not destroyed by the revelations in the Sunday Times of his peculiar aesthetic practices, but his life ended in self-destruction. A crucial difference relevant to this outcome came from the fact that Lawrence was not sexually attracted to women. Mack writes, quote, I believe Lawrence could not have allowed himself to be beaten by a woman. The masochism of many men does take this form. For the beatings, perverse, brutal, and pathetic as they seem, are nevertheless a form of closeness selected for the fusion of intimacy and simultaneous desecration that they represent. Lawrence was generally more comfortable with closeness among men and could tolerate perhaps a perverse form of intimacy with certain men in a way that he could never have tolerated it with a woman. Unlike the male who pays prostitutes to beat him, Lawrence was not able to drain energy so directly from females who could recycle his psychic waste. His paid torturer lacked this capacity. He found himself trapped in the male-created image of the rape victim who is driven to come back for more, which is classic patriarchal femininity. Oh shit. Mack suggests that perhaps, quote, perhaps he was forced in dealing with his conflicts to squander a certain amount of psychic energy, end quote. Thus, his horizons were specifically limited by his personal conflicts. Both Gandhi and Lawrence lived out their lust-filled flights from lust in male-made feminine roles. Oh, oh my God. Yo. Okay, so let me repeat that. Both Gandhi and Lawrence lived out their lust-filled flights from lust in male-made feminine roles. So let me just do a quick recap. All right, so she mentions Gandhi. I already talked to you about Lawrence. Lawrence was the victim of rape. Okay, Lawrence had been raped as a young man, and as a priest, he was attempting to rectify or reconcile the simultaneous guilt that he housed what was known as false guilt, the simultaneous guilt that he had and shame that he had from this traumatic event. Plus, added to that, he saw his role in the repetition or the replaying of both the shame and guilt of this event. He saw himself as the feminine character in the role that he played. What he had done was he had hired a man, made himself anonymous to the man. The man didn't know that he was a priest. He thought he was just some random weirdo paying him to beat him, horribly beat him, right? So he paid some random man to, over years, they said 10 years, this relationship went on where he would pay this man to use metal whips and prods to beat him to the point of bleeding, in an attempt, in his mind, to reconcile, as a form of penance, as a priest, to reconcile these opposing, not even opposing. Okay, the shame he felt from the aggression. The guilt that he felt was from the fact that because he had unresolved trauma, unaddressed psychological trauma, this defining event he took pleasure in. You see, when she talks here about the same as many women who will go back to aggressors who repeatedly torment them, he was doing the same thing in this relationship that he had initiated with this man that he paid to beat him. This was his attempt to replay this trauma that had been left unaddressed psychologically. The guilt that he was experiencing was the pleasure that he took from the unresolved trauma. The shame that he felt was from feeling defiled by the initial act, by the initial trauma. That's some deep shit. And in that role, he was playing what in his mind he imagined was the feminine role because he hated women. On the extreme opposite of this ascetic behavior in this priest was Gandhi, who coveted women's essence, who coveted women's energy, particularly the version of women's energy that was maternal. He coveted women's energy, especially the maternal energy, because in his mind, he saw that the maternal energy was a powerful energy, but not one that would allow him to give honor where honor is due to some mother somewhere. No, what he wanted to do was to siphon that power from the women that he was forcing himself on spiritually and psychologically through these acts that he was committing, right? To siphon the maternal energy from them, to literally put himself forward as a male mother to the many. You see these extreme opposites that she is presenting here in these two characters? The asceticism is the same. It's still these extreme, weird ass acts of, quote, religious devotion centered around the malignancy of men who hated women. I will continue. The Hindu mother, she's talking about Gandhi. Let me repeat that sentence. Both Gandhi and Lawrence lived out their lust-filled flights from lust. They were attempting to escape lust in male-made feminist roles, male-made feminine roles. The Hindu mother is generally praised and his shortcomings completely overlooked. Well, the Hindu mother, Gandhi, is generally praised and his shortcomings completely overlooked. The Christian male rape victim who strangely resembled a nun in his white Arab robes is perceived by his biographers as unquestionably great, but also as pathetic. Can you imagine the dichotomy? Oh, y'all ain't heard. This dude who I just told y'all about, this priest who went down in history as this great priest for his extreme acts of aestheticism. This Christian male rape victim, who strangely resembled a nun in his white Arab robes, is perceived by his biographers as unquestionably great, but also as pathetic. Why the pathetic? Again, because he assumed that his enacting or replay this event that defined him as this feminine thing that happened to him. That's where the pathetic comes in. He is seen as a tragic victim of a disorder which, according to Mack, was due largely to his powerful identification. Oh, child. He is seen as a tragic victim of a disorder which, according to Mack, was due largely to his powerful identification with his mother, who used to beat him. You understand? The disorder, child, if it is perfectly consistent with the phallocratic ethic that men who lived through the utmost limit of their capability, it is perfectly consistent with the phallocratic ethic that men who lived through to the utmost limit of their capability, the female roles which men have created should be honored as slightly flawed divinities. Oh my God. Gandhi, quote, was a mother who did not succeed in his efforts to be a mother of a united India, but he was revered as no genuine mother was ever revered during her lifetime in patriarchal history, and certainly honored as no self-identified creative woman has ever been honored. Oh shit. As for Lawrence, this prince of our disorder is eulogized as tragic for falling into an imitation of the vicious cycle which has been the common fate of countless women. This is the circle of those victims of rape who never break out because their spirits, as well as their bodies, have been torn apart, and the only healing offered has been a hideous welding of pleasure and pain. Of course, the fate of Lawrence is mourned as tragic, while a far more hopeless fate is accepted and legitimized by the psychiatrists and priests of Sado spirituality as the natural and divinely ordained fate of women. Ooh, shit. Oh my God. Child, I got goosebumps everywhere. Oh, shit. She said, of course, the fate of Lawrence is mourned as tragic, while a far more hopeless fate than accepted and legitimized by priests and psychiatrists of Sado spirituality as the natural and ordained fate of women. Listen. Untold numbers of women have suffered unnatural welding of pleasure and pain without any of the compensations of recognized achievement and adventure. Within the Sado society, most women, unlike Lawrence, can hardly be described as actively choosing to squander psychic energy. Rather, this precious life force is leached before it can be actively assumed by the self for her own process. The horizons of women thus trapped, sapped, are limited not merely by personal conflicts, but by a massive social conspiracy. The many layers of destruction of women are especially crushing in the third world countries and in the severely depressed ghettos of industrialized nations. Crones are especially aware of the manifold oppression of our sisters in the Appalachia, Native American Indian reservations, the Roxburys and Harlems of any major American city, the Palestinian refugee camps in the Middle East, the reservations for Aboriginal people in Australia. All of these women are victims of the exploitation and imperialism that are logical extensions of phallic lust. Female victims of phallic lust seldom have the chance to become great or later tragic. Thus, this true obscenity of the Sado spiritual flight from lechery into phallic aestheticism, the obscenity of its malignant deceptiveness, its masking and mocking of male destruction of women, is reflected in the careers of such aesthetic heroes who function as distorted mirrors of the tragedy of women under phallocracy. Shh. Let's see, Dag Hammarskjöld. The ideas and behaviors displayed in the documents of phallic asceticism do not always fixate explicitly upon sexual obsessions. In some cases, the asceticism gives the appearance of functioning for its own sake. This can sometimes be seen in the writings and lives of patriarchy's compulsive professionals, such as Statman Dag Hammarskjöld, famed Secretary General of the United Nations from 1953 until his death in 1961, whose ascetic ponderings are recounted in his well-known book of meditations called Markings. As the book jacket accurately asserts, this work is a record that reveals the extent of his commitment to the way of the cross. Among his remarks to himself in the manuscript intended for publication after his death are the following, quote, "Your life is without a foundation if, in any matter, you choose on your own behalf. And there is more of the same. Quote, thine, a sacrifice and a liberation to obey a will for which I is in no respect a goal." Oh, shit. This shit is so wicked. Masochistically, quote, "Do you still need to evoke memories of a self-imposed humiliation in order to extinguish a smoldering of self-admiration?" End quote. Boringly, he wrote, quote, "The greatest creation of mankind, in which it is the noblest dream of the individual, is to lose himself." Quote, oh shit. Self-flagellatingly, quote, "Destruction, what fury in your attack, how cruel your victory over this poor old body. You raised everything, you plunged a mind into the abyss of anguish, and released this smile of ultimate joy." End quote. And onward to explicit negation of self as telos, quote, "You will know life and be acknowledged by it according to your degree of transparency, your capacity, that is, to vanish as an end and remain purely as a means." Oh shit. Oh my God. Ooh. Okay. I want to say something. About this. She just quoted off several quotes from Dag Hammarskjöld, who was the chair of the Secretary General for the United Nations from 1953 to 1961. He is heralded as this great thinker because of his ascetic convictions to, quote, commit himself to the way of the cross, right? There is an eerie familiarity in these quotes that this man just wrote. And her assessment and understanding of what asceticism looks like, its purpose, and the difference between what asceticism looks like in males, right, and what is imposed on women. Listen, follow me. All of these quotes about self-sacrifice, disappearing oneself, the liberation, the sacrifice and the liberation is to obey a will for which I is in no respect a goal. The disappearance of the I, right? The what else she said? The admonishing of self-imposed humiliation to extinguish to lose oneself. Oh my God. What did I tell y'all a few months ago about my experience going to church with my mom? Right? And I was talking about all the songs the church folk was singing. The choir was singing that day. That day, all the songs were about what? I give myself away. Giving oneself away. Right? Losing oneself. I am nothing. These are the songs. I am nothing. I am nothing. Right? Yes, Letitia, to the he, the him. The he, the him. Right? But what this is talking about, what all of these things here, destruction, what fury in your attack, how cruel your victory over this poor old body, how cruel your victory over this poor old body. You raised everything. You plunged a mind into the abyss of anguish and released this smile of ultimate joy. Do y'all hear what I am hearing? In men, in males, she just said it when talking about Gandhi and Lawrence. In males, this kind of self-imposed abuse is raised up and is heralded and is championed as evidence of the supremacy of males spiritually, while at the same time, those acts are perceived as these males aligning themselves with female suffering imposed on female bodies, imposed on females as their natural and divinely ordained fate to be women, to be abused. Here, so when men do it, when men are abused and they self-impose this abuse, it is heralded, it is raised up as some evidence of their spiritual ascension. The self-flagellating, the self-sacrificing, the self-abuse, you understand, the penitence, the ascetic, crazy, insane acts of all type of dumbass shit. You understand? But those same things, those same institutions, these same patriarchal religious institutions, forcefully impose on the bodies of women. These men do this shit with consent. They do it on their own to themselves. They do this shit on their own for some kind of glory, you see. But the disappearing of the I, you understand? The imposed, now he says self-imposed, but for women, it is imposed humiliation in an attempt to extinguish self-admiration. Y'all ain't following. For him, it was masochism. You understand? It was self-imposed through aestheticism, through penance, self-imposed humiliation for the purpose of extinguishing smoldering self-admiration. But did he really extinguish? Did he really extinguish smoldering self-admiration? No, he didn't. As a matter of fact, these acts fueled his freaking malignant ass ego. That's what it did. Why else would he feel the need to write a book about his life and how wonderful he was as a devoted ascetic? You understand? Y'all ain't hearing me. He talking out one side of his mouth, but his actions say something else. Acts of asceticism, because if it was true acts of asceticism, they would be done in private. There would be no admirers. There would be nobody to know what this relationship between you and God required of you. If it was true, if it was truly not based in ego, if it was truly not based in self-indulgence, self-admiration, and the need for admiration from others, on the one hand. And on the other hand, taking away the self-imposition of these things that he had done, it is a mirror image, a mere opposite image of what happens to the bodies of women unwillingly, unconsensually, that according to the psychiatrists and priests of the day, is just simple, natural, and divinely ordained fate of women. That you born women, this is just what you come to expect, to be disappeared, to be humiliated, imposed humiliation on your life to make sure that you never experience self, to what? Extinguish the smoldering of self-admiration, to make sure that you are never What does it say? Able to find yourself, because see, his attempt was to lose himself, the greatest creation of mankind, in which the noblest of dreams of the individual is to lose oneself. Nope. For women, it is to remember, it is to find oneself. Y'all didn't hear me. You understand? What else he say? Destruction. What a fury in your attack. Destruction. What a fury in your attack. He is talking to destruction like a parent, like a parent, like a god. What fury in your attack. How cruel your victory over this poor old body. You raised everything, not raised, 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 destroyed, ran through, raised, RAZED, everything. You plunged a mind into the abyss of anguish and released this smile of ultimate joy. Okay. What else he saying? Onward to explicit negation of self. Let me tell you something about the negation of self. I didn't intend to talk to y'all about the book. I just intended to do a straight up read. But let me just tell you while it's coming through about the explicit negation of self. Isn't that what women are afflicted by right now? That this same thing that men have the luxury as sport to go out and do, to negate myself, to go live in the Himalayas for 6 months, to study with a yogi or a guru, to not bathe and to fast and meditate and to abstain from sex. These things that they can do for sport and then come back in the world and talk about what an amazing and ascended being that they are, because that's what it's for. Truth be told, that's what it's for, right? The explicit negation of self, the forced negation of self when it is women. Y'all are not hearing. The forced, imposed negation of self when it is dealing with women, meaning it is not glorified, it is not heralded, it is not raised up, it is not held up as some defining quality of femininity, right? The negation of self, because the negation of self is required by patriarchy to ensure control, to ensure that you will have countless babies, because of course your value as a woman is tied to the number of children that you can bear. And we get romantically, ideologically caught up in that myth, because that's why we long for more babies after we have a baby, after we done went through the whole goddamn blood rites and rituals of having a child, baby. The pregnancy, the insemination, the pregnancy, and the childbirth. As soon as that baby gets a little bit big, we start craving another baby. Is that hormonal, or is it the evidence of social relationships on our hormones? I ain't gonna get too deep on y'all because I could. You understand? But the negation of self, it's admirable when this man of great power, the seat of one of the highest bodies on the planet, is talking about the negation of self and the extinguishing of self-admiration, right? The ultimate joy is to experience a destruction as a cruel victory over my flesh and shit. Madness. But it makes him sound ascended and spiritually connected. You understand? Meanwhile, this is the regular, daily, ongoing, imposed experience of women and on women's bodies. The extinguishing of self-admiration, the imposed losing of oneself, imposed losing of oneself. The greatest enemy of patriarchy is for a woman to remember who the fuck she is. for a woman to recall her natural power. That's why the need for the explicit negation of self. We can't have these bitches remembering who the fuck they are. We cannot have these bitches remembering what their power is. We damn sure cannot allow these bitches to remember or to understand that all that empowers us, we stole from them. We siphoned off them. Do you understand? I will continue. But baby, this a word. This a word right now. You understand? You will know life and be acknowledged by it according to you, to the degree of your transparency and your capacity that, listen, your capacity that is to vanish as an end and remain purely as a means. What? Isn't that what is required of us all the time? The ongoing, we are talking about it all the time. We talk about it as healers. We talk about it as spiritual people. We talk about it as diviners. We talk about it as artists. We talk about it as musicians. This extraordinarily lopsided, imbalanced expenditure of energy, because we are told to be selfless, to accept humiliation as a way to keep us humble and to prevent us from becoming egomaniacs. We are told that self-admiration is what's the word I'm looking for? Is arrogant. Oh, I used to get that all the time. Self-admiration is arrogant. What? To be concerned with oneself is selfishness. What? You can only understand real joy through suffering and cruelty. Wait a minute. The highest accomplishment is the explicit negation of self. These narratives imposed on the lives of women from day one that make us, and then we turn around and complain in confusion about why we're invisible. About why we are invisible. We were born invisible. Our conditioning to invisibility started when we came out the womb with vaginas. As soon as they knew our sex, okay. Start the conditioning right now. It is required for us to be silent, passive, givers, handers over of our power to this creature that has birthed itself through the siphoning of maternal power. Baby, they just talked about it with Gandhi. He recognized that all the power rested with the maternal entity, with the mother. That's what this book said. That he recognized it, and as a conscious act of siphoning off women's energy, what did he do? He committed acts of psychological and spiritual rape. That's what he did. You know, the controversy wasn't just about him finding young girls to sleep in his bed with him to test his theory that he had gotten to a place where he was no longer able to succumb to the lust of the flesh. It said that even in these scenarios, these women didn't voluntarily sleep in the bed with Gandhi. He went to and fro, exploiting his fame, exploiting people's trust in him, to take young girls out their motherfucking house, to take wives from husbands. That's what the book say. And make these women sleep in his bed and cuddle with him like mothers do with their young infants. That's what the book say. And it says that he recognized, and he did it knowingly, siphon off these women's energy while at the same time professing and proclaiming to be the mother of a united India. Y'all ain't. Yo. In his forward to this sado spiritual. Oh, so let me say one more thing. This whole synapse this whole synopsis that I have just laid down on you, the extreme ass opposites of the same thing, men becoming ascetics, males becoming ascetics in these religious extremist institutions as acts of devotion, but these acts of devotion are supposed to mirror the suffering that is just handed out to women, you feel me? But they take on the burden willingly and get held up for it, while at the same time, and that is the masochistic aspect of what she's calling this particular society. That is the masochistic aspect of this spiritual lunacy. And on the other extreme is the sadistic imposition of that same shit that they're willingly doing to themselves, the sadistic imposition of those behaviors on the bodies of women everywhere for the sole purpose of siphoning off their goddamn energy, siphoning off their goddamn power. What power is that? The power inherent in them or given to them by the mother. I'm just telling you what it is. You understand? In his foreword to this sado-spiritual classic, W.H. Auden makes some telling comments indicating, for example, that the thought of suicide was not strange to Hammarskjöld. Indeed, he was fascinated by suicide. Quote, when he has an automobile accident, his last thought before losing consciousness is, he tells us, a happy thought. Well, my job is done, end quote. Auden informs the reader that Hammarskjöld knew exactly what his problem was. If he was not to go under, he must learn how to forget himself and find a calling in which he could forget himself. Explaining, or perhaps apologizing for, the repetitiousness of markings, Auden suggests that many of the entries must have been written by a man at the extreme limits of mental and physical exhaustion, end quote, as a result of constant nervous strain and overwork. Despite his self-flagellating attitudes, or rather consistent with them, was the enduring fact that Hammarskjöld's tedious narcissistic fascination with himself. This book was written in 1983. I want to keep reiterating that. This book was written in 1983. And I'm stopping here because of a reason. When I came to California, I came out here for a number of reasons. But one reason was I was escaping what was seeming to become a repetition of patterns in my life, right? This repetition of patterns in my life was about me believing in other people's missions, visions, projects, programs, visions, and then turning my skills, my earned ass skills, over to these people who I trusted because they had this radical vision or this idea or this project or this program, and every single solitary time being exhausted, wasted, demoralized, because it always ended the same way. Me having been exploited by these same individuals, never being adequately compensated for these skills that I lent to the success of these projects, programs, visions, or what the fuck have you, right? One. And so when I came out to California, I've never heard anywhere, honestly, in the South, growing up in the South, being a political organizer in the South, being a spiritual woman in the South, I never once heard a conversation among Black in the church, in the APSP, in any of these organizations I worked for, in IFA, I never heard a discussion about narcissism and the role that it played inside these organizations. So all of this behavior that I was experiencing and that women were echoing everywhere I turned, we was having these same kind of experiences over and over again with men who were supposed to be, quote, the best sons of Africa. These were supposed to be the enlightened ones. These were supposed to be the ones who had spiritually arrived and shit. You feel me? They're supposed to be ahead of the curve and shit, but we were still experiencing this kind of gross, insidious, just below the surface exploitation and abuse in these organizations, and I had no way to articulate what the hell was happening to us, right? And so it wasn't until I got to California, and honey, the narrative out here like I began to understand every relationship that I had, both personally and inside these organizations for the last 20 years when I got to California. Because everybody well versed in their trauma out here. Everybody know how to recognize, parasites. Everybody is well versed in their trauma. So the first time I ever even heard a conversation about narcissism, about the different types of narcissism, child, I heard this woman do this lecture on noble narcissism. Noble narcissism. And it blew my wig off. I was like, oh my God. Every relationship that I have been in, I'm talking about, partnership, romantic, sexual relationship that I had been in since the age of 28 had been with a noble narcissist. And so the whole time I'm thinking, how am I attracting the same type of dude? No matter what their background was, no matter what they swag was like this thing that existed in all of them. Now I'm gonna tell you a secret. It ain't no secret no more because I'm about to tell you. I was 28 years old the first time I had a actual relationship with a black man. I was 28 years old. I did into this relationship with this brother who was a member of or a follower of the Nations of Gods and Earth, right? Love this African. God rest his soul. He passed away during COVID. Beautiful African, beautiful skin. As a matter of fact, he was the spitting image of Lorenz Tate. Looked just like him, right? Same swag, everything. Love this African. And it always confused me how he could be so sweet, right? And so gentle in how he handled human beings, so wonderful in his relationship with his children and the care that he took care of his children, but mistreat African women in certain particular ways, right? Same thing. My ex-husband, my ex-fiance. I'm looking at this line of connection between all of them, and then I hear this woman, this Indian woman, talk about noble narcissism, and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. This is what it has been, right? We didn't have the language in the South. We didn't have these wonderful, big, broad schools of psychology and understanding human behavior that exist out here in California as just regular everyday conversation. I realized that every relationship as an adult that I had been in with an African, with a black man, not saying they're the only noble narcissist, because they ain't, by far, have been with a noble narcissist. Every single one had been with a noble narcissist. The defining attributes of a noble narcissist is that out in the world, their presentation is big. Everybody loves them. Everybody admires them. They are smart. They are articulate. They are big. They do wonderful acts of work in the world. They go feed the people. They volunteer. They do all this wonderful shit out in the world. And behind closed doors, they are goddamn tyrants. They are horrible to the women in their lives. They may mistreat their children. They are horrible human beings. And so what happens is, and they do this shit on purpose. What they do, what these big giant acts do is twofold. One, it continues to add fuel to this out of control flame that is their ego, because everybody's constantly telling them how wonderful they are. Oh my God, look at the wonderful work that you do. You're so awesome. On the one hand, and the other purpose of this work, this philanthropic, awesome work that they do out in the world, is to provide protective cover for them. So when they go home, actively, willingly, knowingly abusing those closest to them, they don't have to say it, but they know that bitch will keep quiet because ain't nobody gonna believe you because I'm this awesome motherfucker in the world. You see, I do all this wonderful shit in the world. Ain't nobody gonna believe you, so I can punch you in your mouth and say, oops, my bad later. But you shouldn't have said such and such, or you shouldn't have, got on my nerves or whatever. They're typical narcissists. They still have typical narcissistic behavior and tendencies, but it is blown the fuck up by these acts that they do in the world that do two things, and they know it does two things. It provides shields of protection for them from this shit they're doing behind closed doors. And the second thing that it does And what it also does is causes the world to disbelieve the abused. And the second thing that it does is it adds the necessary flame, the necessary gasoline to their fucking ego that's blazing out of control. Oh, give it to me, give it to me. I love it. I love it so much. I love it so much. I love it so much. Baby. I hate to say it, because I love whatever. I love men. I love black men. But every relationship that I have been in, 3 relationships since I was 28. Because when I end a relationship, I take long ass periods of recovery. Child, it's been 6 years since I've been in an intimate partner relationship. 6. I take long breaks between breakups. You feel me? And my only 3 relationships, long-term sexual intimate partner relationships with black men, they were the exact person in a different body, child. They were all noble narcissists, extreme noble narcissists. Oh, and then the entitlement also that comes with being a narcissist. I stopped there because here, this book was written in 1983. And I just said it. This dude is talking about the ways that he's giving himself up and he's letting himself go. And he's forgetting the I for the we. And what else she's saying? He is willing to be open to humiliation. What did he say? Self-imposed humiliation in order to extinguish smoldering self-admiration. All of these wordy ass things and these gross ass displays that they make are actually the evidence of goddamn narcissism. This nigga was a noble narcissist. And she says, despite his self-flagellating attitudes, or rather consistent with them, was the enduring fact that Hammarskjöld's tedious narcissistic fascination with himself. Child. He once jokingly told Auden that being Secretary General of the UN was like being a secular pope, and the papal throne is a lonely eminence. Oh, well, there you go. There you go. Of course, Markings, which is the name of the book that he wrote, appears to be a virtual rhapsody to the merits of his self-annihilation. In a 1957 entry, Hammarskjöld admonished himself, quote, "and nothing for your future comfort or the future of your good name," end quote. Nevertheless, the book jacket informs us that he left behind the manuscript of his unctuous book to be published after his death. Few women can afford the luxury of such lugubriousness. Oh my God. Oh my God. Ooh, child. Few women can afford the luxury of such lugubriousness. The common lot of women under patriarchy has been the sacrificing of personal needs and ambitions for the sake of children, husbands, aged parents, brothers, and just about everybody else. Women, particularly when poor, black, and or members of a minority ethnic group, suffer the enforced status of those who remain purely as a means. Come on. Come on. Act like you heard. She just said what I just spent 20 minutes telling y'all. You understand? Oh, and this movie just came out. This book is so on time right now. Robert Oppenheimer, which there was just a big ass movie made about him, another aesthetic professional. Listen, y'all remember just a couple of months ago, there was all this controversy about the movie that just came out called Oppenheimer. Y'all remember that? Anybody? This book is on time. I didn't know he was in here when the movie came out. I didn't go watch the movie because I knew who the motherfucker was and the crimes against humanity he had committed, and then committed these crimes against humanity and turned around and won, all kinds of awards and all kinds of money. It made him rich. While meanwhile, damn near 60 years later, indigenous communities in the area where he was doing the atomic bomb testing are still suffering and have never been compensated by the United States government. So no, I didn't go watch the movie, and I was mad about the people that I knew personally who did. Anyway, so here he is in the book. Go figure. Robert Oppenheimer, another aesthetic professional, Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, can be said to merit special attention here. For in his life and writings, he demonstrates quite graphically the direction and logical outcome of phallic aestheticism. In 1932, in a letter to his brother Frank, Oppenheimer wrote, quote, "Therefore I think that all things which evoke discipline, study, and our duties to men and to the commonwealth, war, and the personal heart and personal hardship, and even the need for subsistence, ought to be greeted by us with profound gratitude. For only through them can we attain to the least detachment, and only so we can know peace." Emphasizes my peace. Y'all hear what I said? In Oppenheimer's worldview, then, war is justifiable on the grounds that it evokes discipline. In Oppenheimer's vision, as in George Orwell's Savage Satire, 1984, there is displayed the insane logic epitomized in the slogan, "War is peace." Since Oppenheimer was able to justify war on the grounds that through it we can know peace, it is not surprising to read his thoughts about the building of the first atomic bombs in the 1940s. Concerning this, several years later, he wrote, quote, "It is my judgment in these things that when you see something that is technically sweet, you go ahead and do it, and you argue about what to do about it only after you have had your technical success. That is the way it was. That is the way that it was with the atomic bomb. I don't think anybody opposed making it. There was some doubt about what to do with it after it was made." End quote. This consummately destructive ideology is phallic aestheticism, which is to say, it is a consequence of the obsession and aggression which is phallic lust. Thinking of this mental state as analogous to physical disease, this woman is preaching. As physical disease, we might describe it as something like telic decentralization, a phrase used to describe the condition of an organism that has been turned against its own. Oh my God, turned against its own purposes, becoming unhealthy, disordered, and autoallergic. Are y'all here with me? Because let me just tell you about what just happened. Go back and watch our temple service from this Saturday. I just spent a whole hour on Saturday using systems of alternative medicine and the analogy of cancer as self. Thank you, Letitia. Yes, somebody is listening. And the analogy of cancer as cell turned against the self. Cell not remembering its function, its purpose within the whole. And that rogue cell not only destroys the self around it, but is self-destructive. Listen, how is this what she's saying in this book 3 days later? Oh my God. This consummately destructive, okay, so she talks about, a phrase used to describe the condition of an organism that is turned against its own processes and purposes, becoming unhealthy, disordered, and autoallergic. Such a phrase is inadequate, however, for the word telic suggests that there had been present a sense of biophilic purpose, telos, that could be lost. And decentralization implies that there had been a focus, a center. Pseudo-spiritual asceticism is the ideology and behavior of those who show no evidence of ever having experienced biophilic elemental purpose or center. I'm all around. I'm tripping right now. So, the problem of describing this condition is the problem of naming the deep mystery of evil. For words name what is. For words name what is. Here we are faced with the perversion of spirit with a anti-spirit, anti-matter, non-being. Sato's spiritual legitimation of this lust and its technological ejaculations is illustrated not only by Oppenheimer's choice of the code name Trinity for the 1945 atomic test that took place at Alamogordo, New Mexico. My mind is blown too right now. Like, I'm remaining calm, but like I'm on one right now. But especially by his explanation of this choice. Opie, as he was known by his colleagues, recalled that he was influenced by a devotional poem by John Donne, which opened with the words, "Batter my heart, three-person God." The battering of the earth and her creatures is the consequence of this disordered sentiment. Reactions of statesmen to the Trinity report were consistent with the spirit of scientists. We are told of Winston Churchill's reaction when Stimson called the copy of the report, quote, Churchill, who was relaxing in his zippered siren suit, read the report, then waved his cigar with a flourish. Stimson, he rumbled. What was gunpowder? Trivial. What was electricity? Meaningless. This atomic bomb is the second coming in wrath. Oh my God. Yo, we got to get in this history, y'all. Oh my God. This man called the atomic bomb the second coming in wrath. And he said it in joy. He said it in bliss and excitement. Examples of such snoolishness can be multiplied in ad infinitum. All illustrate that impotence to reach beyond appearances that characterizes phallic lust. Unable to be whole, those driven by phallic lust attempt to find holes everywhere, to penetrate, to pierce into an inner reality which they yearn to destroy but cannot even find. Many effects of sadoasceticism shape the foreground conditions through which wanderlusting women must pass. These are the conditions of imposed asceticism, in which millions of lives are lived out, drained out. Oh my God. This has been the theme all week. Lived out, drained out through imposed asceticism. They include the massacres of war, racism, imposed economic poverty and famine, environmentally caused ill health, the subtly spreading drabness, banality, ugliness of the man-made environment, the all-pervasive lies that deaden our minds under the reins of the Sado state. Women in the third world especially are exploited to such an extent that imposed asceticism amounts to serious physical damage. Multinational corporations employ young women in jobs that destroy their eyesight and expose them to dangerous chemicals. Barbara Ehrenrich and Annette Fuentes describe a typical job in such a factory as involving peering all day through a microscope, bonding hair-thin gold wires into a silicone chip. According to these authors, starting wages in the U.S.-owned electronics plants in the Philippines are between $34 and $64 a month, compared to the cost of living of $37 a month. In Indonesia, the starting wages are about $7 a month less than the cost of living. Typically, workers in such places Workers in such places, let's see, live in barracks, often rotating beds with workers on other shifts. 80 to 90% of the workers employed in such sub-survival level, life-destroying jobs are women. 80 to 90%. Exploitation of women's labor is hardly new in patriarchy, of course. In early times, women were blinded doing close needlework for minimal wages. The history of sweatshops is well known. What might appear surprising is the fact that modern advanced technology still requires such body and soul destroying labor. I'm going to read just for a few more minutes and then we'll stop. Under the reigns of the Sado state, imposed aestheticism is the rule. This continuing pattern should not be surprising, however. It will continue without serious opposition unless we manage to see through its legitimators' lies. Mental deprivation and lies. I shall focus here upon the mental spiritual deprivation inflicted upon women in Sado society, for this form of imposed asceticism fixes women, stifling our elemental ability to know, sense, feel, act on behalf of the race of women. Within the Sado society, women are tracked and trained by male mediation of experience, a mediation which fixes the flow of female thought and passion. Women are held back from remembering consciousness, which is thus dismembered by phallocrats, who fashion and promote the biggest lies, the cruelest degradations, the deadening deep intuitive power over and over again, forcing women repeatedly to reinvent the wheel. Oh my God. Ugh. Forcing women to repeatedly reinvent the wheel. Indeed, the tactic of employing biggest lies to accomplish psychic dismemberment is an essential feature of all Sado ideology, including science, theology, psychology, biology, and pornography. It might seem at first thought that theological dogmas are not directly relevant to the destruction of female consciousness and confidence. At second thought, it becomes evident that dogmas of a male God and his incarnate son, combined with pervasive myth of female evil, are all too relevant. Agnostic investigators turn our attention even beyond this to the effects of less obviously sex-related dogmas which have undermined psychic integrity. Within Christendom, a major theological tenet which illustrates such undermining has been the doctrine of transubstantiation, according to which the substances of bread and wine are changed into the body and blood of Christ. In the course of this change, only the appearances of bread and wine are said to remain the same. Popes and theologians through the centuries have proclaimed this to be the greatest of all changes, greater even than substantial change. They have taught that as a consequence of substantiation, the body and blood, soul and divinity of Christ are really present. The swallowing of this dogma, the denial of one's own sense and senses, prepares the way for acceptance of further deceptions. This is especially the case because of the brazenness of the deception. Agnostic elemental thinkers will note the significance of the fact that the bread and wine of the Eucharist are called elements. The traditional Catholicism communicants must will to believe that they are not eating and drinking bread and wine, and thus acquire the habit of self-deception about the elemental acts of taking food and drink. Such authoritatively required self-deception can happen only in a context of father-fostered false consciousness, and it reinforces such consciousness. The Eucharistic dogma has affected not only hundreds of millions of believers, but also in a more subliminal way, the whole of Western society. for training in doublethink and doubts of one's own perceptions is psychologically contagious. Yeah, oh my God. Yo. The dogma has prepared the way for acceptance of such phenomena as transsexualism. In recent years, propaganda promoting what feminist ethicist Jan Raymond has named the transsexual empire has managed to persuade many people that a real woman actually can exist under the appearances of a male body, implying the need for a transsexual operation to make the body appearance correspond to the reality. The transsex tennis pro Renee Richards, for example, is officially and legally a woman who can play women's tennis. Richards is an illustration of what Raymond calls the making of the she-male. Oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening right now. I cannot believe this right now, okay? This book was written in 1983. This book was written in 1983. This book was written in 1983. I cannot believe this is happening right now. Oh my God. Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Oh my God. Y'all, I can't. This sort of warped interpretation of the idea that appearances are deceiving is manifested also in the jargon of anti-abortion pro-lifers who will refer to the abortion of an embryo after 4 weeks gestation as the murder of a baby. Indeed, these fanatics refer to cellular development from the moment of conception as babies. I cannot believe this. The imagery connected with the Eucharistic dogma must color the perceptions of all who live within range of its cultural fallout. Thus, all who hear on television or read on billboards that Coca-Cola is the real thing, and all who reside in or even have heard of Corpus Christi, Texas, are subliminally affected and infected. The subliminal influence was dramatically demonstrated on April 25th of 1921 when a fast attack nuclear-powered submarine called the USS Corpus Christi was launched, according to an Associated Press report. Quote, as 600 protesters denounced the launching of the USS Corpus Christi yesterday as a blasphemous instrument of death, Navy Secretary John F. Lehman Jr. praised the nuclear-powered submarine as an instrument of peace, of justice, and of freedom. The issue of the church became the focal point of this anti-war protest because of the name of the submarine. While Corpus Christi is a city in Texas with a large naval air station, it is also Latin for the body of Christ. Several Roman Catholic leaders in Connecticut condemned the use of the name on a hunter-killer sub. The protesters did not understand that the description of a fast attack submarine as an instrument of peace, of justice, and of freedom was consistent with the tradition of doublethink that is legitimated by the Eucharistic dogma itself. Uh-oh, shots fired. For the viewers of the launching were being asked to deny the evidence of their own senses, to negate their capacity for logic, to forget that a fast attack submarine is an instrument of war, unjust massacre, and of enslavement. Oh my God. The protesters' confusion was manifested in the style of the protest itself. The style of the protest itself, as reported by Associated Press. The group, some of whom wore religious vestments, and one of whom carried a 10-foot tall cross, poured blood all over the sidewalk and knelt in the street. Although they intended to protest the blasphemy and alleged contradiction in the name of the submarine, they had forgotten the sadomasochistic associations of the cross, as well as the history of Christian Holocaust, which preceded those projected by the high priest of nuclearism. The traditional theology of the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, then, is a particularly graphic example of sado-spiritual indoctrination into swallowing a lie. Under the guise of offering spiritual food and drink, the Christian church for many centuries has starved the souls of women, stuffing minds with false food, with unreal absence, making the real presence of truth, of elemental knowing and sensing, less and less accessible. Holy shit. Oh my God. Yo, oh my God. The imposed aestheticism of spiritual intellectual starvation in the name of communion and communication is all pervasive in the Sado state. This indoctrination into compulsive lie swallowing from the ingestion of from the ingestion of artificially colored and flavored carcinogenic foods to the consumption of ABC nightly news depends for its efficacy upon the strategy of force feeding the victims with the biggest lies. It is for this reason, oh my God. Oh my God. It is for this reason that the Eucharistic example is so enlightening. Let's see what time is. Okay. I'll read just a little bit more and then we're going to end. The technique of employing biggest lies is fundamental to the entire edifice of deception. For the function of biggest lies is the torture by maiming and starvation of the victim's intellect and senses, the weakening of these faculties so that these always need a fix, even crave a fix, consisting of more deception in continuous smaller doses. Women whose minds and senses have been thus fixed exhibit the classic symptom of being tortured: gratitude for any semblance of leniency on the part of the torturers, even though the situation of torture is not recognized as such. Oh, oh my God. Yo, listen. Oh my God. Child, goddamn. Like the tortured political prisoner who has been denied liquids and is grateful for a modicum of water, so the victim of the sexual politics of lying is thankful for a for a modicum of reasonableness of truth. Such partial reasonableness, however, is not reasonable or truthful at all. In the state of boredom, oh my God, such pseudo reasonableness is much in demand, for the hucksters of this day have manufactured a market for many truths. Entombed and consumed in this state, women are thankful for menial jobs, moranicizing education and entertainment, and the right to vote for men. Oh shit. Oh my God. Y'all ain't hearing me. I'm having a whole ass moment. Listen. She said when you've been denied so motherfucking long, you start being grateful for shit you should not be grateful for. For shit you should not be. She said, entombed and consumed in this state of pseudo-reasonableness, women are thankful for menial jobs, moranicizing demonetizing education and entertainment, the right to vote for men, essential to the bureaucratic strategy of deception is the labeling of modest reforms. Oh, shit. Oh, my God. Oh, shit. Oh, my God. Essential to the bureaucratic strategy of deception is the labeling of modest reforms as radical and extreme. Within this context, women are informed that the proponents of the ERA are wild radicals and are boringly instructed by William Safire of the New York Times that the use of the title Miss is extremist and irrelevant. The psychic and physical violence inflicted by means of such mind-shrinking strategies causes women to scramble for crumbs. The slightest pretense of sense is hailed as a hallmark of great success. Oh my God. Chained to this wheel of absurdity, the victim does not even guess the extent of her victimhood. Oh, dear God. Oh my God. Yo. Yo. I'm sorry myself right now. But I gotta stop. I want to maintain a discipline. I went over today because I had some conversations that I had to have about what we read today. I am going to try. I ain't gonna promise that I will do this read straight through from now on. But if it get any better than this, child, we gonna have to walk through this book. We gonna have to walk through this book. This last paragraph, child. Oh my God. So we gonna stop here till tomorrow. And tomorrow, the section that we reading is on pornography. So I am. Look, for those of you who are tuning in late or tuning in for the first time, I am reading from the game-changing, magnanimous works of Mary Daly called Pure Lust, Elemental Feminist Philosophy. Pure Lust, Elemental Feminist Philosophy by Mary Daly. Yo, 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 yo. Child, I have had a moment in this reading today. I have had a moment. So, as promised, for those of you who are interested, this is what is going to be my routine from now on. Yes, Lotus Flower, I did see your, I did not respond. I apologize. My intention was to respond, and yes is the answer to your question. Yes, you can interview me. So email me again, releaseheartcenter@gmail.com, releaseheartcenter@gmail.com. Thank you, Letitia. Email me and we can set up a time. Yes, you can interview me. I'm okay with that. And Letitia, you email me too, so we can try to see if you're available Friday for me to interview you. Okay. So I'll just reiterate that I am going to again, like I said, I will do the standard 5 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday. That will be the reading of Pure Lust until we're done with this book. And then in the evening, 5 days a week, I will do the themed, like I told y'all at the beginning. So some of y'all joined late, so let me just reiterate quickly that each day I am going to theme from now on. I am going to theme each of the 5 days of the week from now on. Those are as follows: Monday nights at 9:36 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. 9:36 Pacific Standard Time, Monday nights, I will be doing my presentation on astrology. I'll be doing an astrological update for coming events. Okay, except the third Monday. The third Monday of every month, I will be doing a movie review. So if you have suggestions on movies that you would like for me to break down, because I don't just do reviews, like I break them down, I pull them apart. If you haven't seen any of my movie reviews, go to my YouTube page, which is at Daughter of the Fates. At Daughter of the Fates. You have to put at Daughter of the Fates in the search engine in YouTube, where some other shit will come up. Daughter of the Fates on YouTube, and you can go through the name of my what I call my process for movie reviews is Watching Between the Lines. So go to the folder Watching Between the Lines, and there you'll see the movie reviews that I've done so far. So every third Monday, I will be doing movie reviews, okay? So if you have suggestions about movies, no matter how old, doesn't matter, that you would like for me to analyze, break down, pull apart, and present, cool. The one that I will be doing this third Thursday of the month is already one that has been requested several times. They Clone Tyrone. So on the third Monday of October, I will be doing a movie review and deep dive into the movie They Clone Tyrone. That'll be coming up the third Thursday. In the meantime, the third Monday. In the meantime, every Monday I'll be doing an astrology update at 9:36 p.m. At 9:36 p.m. on Tuesdays, I will be doing a live tarot reading similar to the one I did on Saturday night. A live tarot reading every Tuesday night. So have your questions prepped. Have, any questions that you have, anything that you want to come through, that's the night. Tuesday at 9:36 p.m. Wednesday at 9:36 p.m., I will be facilitating an oracle study that will happen via Zoom if you want to participate, if you want to get on and actually talk and so on and so forth. If you just want to watch, I will still be also broadcasting from YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and IG. But we will also be, but the primary thing you will be watching me facilitate through a Zoom with others this oracle study on Wednesday nights at 9:36 p.m. And I've changed my mind. It might be the form of a book review right now, like book club right now, because this book is awesome. We might be digging into this for the oracle study classes on Wednesday night, but in conjunction with our personal Bible as the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, which is the Great Cosmic Mother Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth, which is how I found out about this book anyway. It was referenced in that book. So get your books, get Pure Lust by Mary Daly, get the Great Cosmic Mother Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth if you have not, because that is what we will be discussing on Wednesday night at 9:36 p.m. At 9:36 p.m. on Thursday night will be my health section. So for those of you who don't know, I actually started this whole process by doing a radio show for the organization I was tied to for about 6 years called Colonialism is Bad for Your Health. And so in that tradition, I will be doing a health segment every Thursday night. You can prep questions that I will be prepared to answer during that process on Thursday night. Friday night, art is the answer. Art is the answer. So all things art, that's what I will be talking about on Friday night at 9:36 p.m. And starting this Sunday, we will be doing temple service. Starting this week, we will be doing temple services on Sundays as opposed to Saturdays. Starting this week, instead of Saturdays, we will be doing temple service on Sundays. On Sundays, okay? So, and I talked to y'all about that as again. The main reason is I have found a location, but I can only use the building on Sundays. So that's what's going to start happening. So it's going to be a packed week, every week of huge amounts of information. I am challenging you. I am calling on you. I am telling you to support this work. Support this work in any way that you can. If you have skills that you can contribute to the building of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, hit me up at releaseheartcenter@gmail.com. I have so much work to do that is just basic logistical stuff that I need help. You understand? I need volunteers. I need people with skills, any kind of skills. None will be turned away. I need resources. So I need you to donate, contribute to the building of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. If you're tuning in through Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, then you can see the information across the bottom of the screen of the different ways that you can contribute: PayPal, Zelle, Venmo, and Cashapp. If you are tuning from IG, just email me at releaseheartcenter@gmail.com. Put donation in the subject header, and I will send you the different ways that you can make a contribution. We are a federally recognized 501c3, the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. So if you need documentation that allows you to claim this, your contributions on your taxes, just let me know and I will email that to you. So that's all I have to say about that. Okay? This reading was off the chain. I'm beside myself right now. You feel me? I'm gonna need a minute because I have to get my mind ready to come back and do this astrological update for you at 9:36 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tonight. And you don't want to miss this one because we are in a process of back to back to back to back major astrological events. We've got the super moon, the super full moon coming up on the 29th. We've got this mess happening with the testing of the emergency, the national testing of the emergency system that's happening on October 4th that actually corresponds with a major astrological event. That's not a coincidence. That's on purpose. October 14th is a solar eclipse, and then October 28th is a lunar eclipse, a blood moon. The eclipse that happens on the 14th is big. It won't be another one like it till the year 2039. There's a lot of shit coming down the line for the next 3 months, astrologically. So you want to be prepped. You don't want to be out here blind. You want to be prepped. That's what astrology is for. It's to help you chart a course. It's to plan a way. You feel me? So tune in tonight. I know it's late, but that's what we do. You understand? 9:36 Pacific Standard Time. Set your alarm clock if it's late where you is. And tune in tonight for the astrological breakdown that I will do tonight. And until then, I will see you this evening or tomorrow. All right? Appreciate you all.